best thing about Kingston is
Kingston's on a river. I've loved the riverboats.
the falling down telephone boxes.
The River Thames.
Do you think it's posh here? Quite posh.
Do I think it's posh here? I don't think one can say.
There's all fur coat and no knickers.
The best thing about Kingston is there are 2 Gregs.
Posh?
New Malden, what's it famous for?
Everybody knows that.
It's full of South Koreans.
The largest Korean population outside of Korea.
Kimchi, obviously.
It is the centre of the universe.
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Mark Steele's in Town, which this week comes from Kingston upon Thames, one of the roughest townships in the area, where southwest London meets Surrey. I've had to seek special protection from the feral urban youth who sit around in gangs making comments such as, "Eh, bruv, like that swan look at you mean blood, innit?" But despite that, Kingston is a part of London that, even if you come for 5 minutes, you will stay for the day. Going, how do I get out of this bloody one-way? I mean, I'm trying to make a point of not doing stuff about one-way systems because you could say, but this one is better than anywhere. It is actually magic, that road system, because you find yourself going, I've just crossed the river, now I'm back on the same side I was when I started. It should have been used in the Harry Potter films. Oh no, Hermione, we're stuck in the Kingston one-way bridge of uncrossability. But that is more than made up for by the fact that you are the royal borough of Kingston. One of only 4 royal boroughs in the country. If someone from Kingston goes to a borough like Lewisham, you must stand there in utter confusion, thinking, well, where do they row? This was where the first crossing over the Thames was built, and someone here told me most residents wish that was one way to keep out undesirables. But it would be unfair to suggest there's any snobbery in Kingston. This is a down-to-earth royal borough, which is why one of the comments I received on Twitter from someone in the town said, Kingston is there to stop the riffraff from blundering into Surbiton. So it must be a joy to be a bit above everywhere else, I would imagine, except when you hear a voice going, yes, but not above us, you see, we're Richmond. It's an exciting borough, Kingston, as you could tell from the comedies that are set here. The Good Life was here, Reggie Perrin was supposed to live here, and once his excuse for getting in late was Badger Etta Junction box at New Malden. For decades, if anybody wanted to set a character in a dull, suburban, middle-class, tedious environment that anyone sane is desperate to escape from, you can be proud that they chose the borough of Kingston. So it's marvellous that as the symbol of unexciting suburbia, you managed to share a name with the capital of Jamaica. I reckon there must be some people who come here because they've got the wrong place. A place Kingston upon a sat-nav arrive here where I live among our brethren. If I bless her not get stuck in her ass clot one-way system for go here, there, back this way, that till I get vexed for as sure I already crossed River of Zion. Very polite. I'm under no illusions that any of you get any of them words. But Kingston is an area that can attract the wealthy, and you can see why from this comment on a forum that I found about Kingston. I used to work in Blockbusters in Kingston, and the rest of the staff would occasionally get excited because the Chelsea goalkeeper was a regular. I didn't have a clue who he was, so I'd serve him with the same contempt I had for all our customers. But we are being unfair here, Kingston, because this is a hugely important cultural centre. One of the great works of European art is in Kingston, because along with Van Gogh's sunflowers and Salvador Dali's clocks, everybody knows the falling telephone boxes of Kingston. A row of telephone boxes on the old London road that look as if they're falling on top of each other and are so adored by the locals. For example, one woman interviewed in the local paper, Pat Arnold, who works for BT, said, I didn't realise they were art. I thought the company had piled them up to cart them off to the dump. Or there is Bentall's, which I'm sure you love, the famous department store. You'd think it would be enough to have a famous store like that, but the council tells us a significant feature is an escalator that travels from the ground to the second floor. It is the largest single truss escalator in the world with only a top and bottom support. What's the point of shopping anywhere else? And you're not just on any escalator, you're on the least supported, highest, unsafest escalator in the world. You should go further and say the lifts are held up by the most freeing cables in the world. Bentall's own website has moved with the times. It says, tight on time, browse the many services we have to offer, such as personal shopping, bra fittings and foreign exchange. What a splendid selection of services. And, to be fair, if I wanted a bra fitting done, I would have it done by Bentall's. They can keep an entire escalator up with a single truss. So breasts are a doddle to Bentall's. You like showing off with your shops here. You're probably used to it, but it's not like this in most places with your grand Tudor building that anywhere else would be called the Great Hall and hired out for posh weddings. Here it's a branch of Next. In the Tudor Next, there is actually a plaque by the staircase saying, this oak staircase was a notable feature of the building when it was the Castle Inn. Your high street chain stores have historic plaques. I bet in Greg's the Baker's there's one saying, this glass cabinet once kept warm the sausage rolls of the Duke of Wellington. There's a branch of John Lewis, and on the ground floor there's an exhibit of the original bridge that goes over the Thames, and you can look at it through the glass. If you go shopping somewhere a bit down market, like Guildford, you'd probably go, well, we went into the newsagents for a Kit Kat, and do you know they didn't have a single marble statue? Now, the other unique feature of John Lewis is the dual carriageway goes through the middle of it. Other one-way systems don't stand a chance. They're not in the same league of inaccessibility, are they? I bet the John Lewis Christmas advert isn't filmed in their Kingston branch, is it? Mummy, look at the lonely seal cub. He looks as if he's crying. If only someone could find him a home, he might not be so sad.
I'm in the right-hand lane, everyone, you arsehole! I'm turning left onto Wood Street,
Show someone some love this Christmas. I've actually heard someone suggest that the ring road could be used as a motor racing circuit, like in Monte Carlo, which would be magnificent, the only Grand Prix ever where the drivers got lost. Hello, crew. Wood Street, no entry from here. Can't see any way out. Completely stuck. Looks like I'm going back over the bridge. Over. Jensen, is John Lewis on your left or the right? Over. Both. Over. OK, don't worry. Nico Rosberg's actually on the 4th floor in home furnishings. He's given up. He's bought a coffee table. Over. All history's here. There's a market house in the main square with a golden queen on the roof. But when Bryony and Catherine from Kingston Guides were showing us round, they said, up there is Queen Anne, who's been there for over 300 years. And a drunk bloke come over and he went, oh, excuse me. Now, anywhere else you'd think, oh, he wants 50p. But here, honestly, he said, that's not Anne, that's Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria. And the brilliant thing is, they started arguing with him. This is the sort of thing that they must start having on BBC 4 to make history popular. Never mind David Starkey tonight on BBC 4, a debate about Tudor Britain between a local historian and a man who's been drinking special brew since 7:30. I'd like to introduce at this point Bryony. Where's Bryony? All right, hello, Bryony. So, was the drunk man a regular debating partner?
He turns up occasionally.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
He was quite insistent that it was Queen Victoria. He started to win me
He
round.
actually said to me later, I was there when it was built.
Yeah, and when was it built?
1703, I think.
Now, you've got to tell us all about the man who designed the one-way system and what happened to him.
Well, the one-way system was installed between 1986 and 89, and it was absolute hell because the traffic kept changing direction. So one day it would be going clockwise, another day it would be anti-clockwise. And one day he forgot that he'd rerouted the traffic round the other way, stepped in front of a car and got his leg broken.
Thank you very much, Brian, for that justice. Kingston then always enjoyed a certain superiority over other boroughs. No wonder you think of yourself the Royal Borough of Kingston with your royal breeding, because Kingston was a sort of capital of England in a way, because the other side of the river was where the Danes controlled, and so the Saxon kings were crowned here in the 10th century. There's a record of King Edgar on the morning of the ceremony complaining his crown didn't fit. Do you know that one, Bronny? I read this, his crown didn't fit. But luckily, Queen Elfrida popped into next and got it changed with an outer square. But you're hiding something here, because the borough hasn't always been like this. The book All Change tells us Surbiton's name means commuter land, but its name was once synonymous with illicit sex. It was an isolated spot where seemingly blameless gentlemen could indulge themselves with ladies of pleasure without their family being any the wiser. Surbiton was the first dogging site in Britain. Surbiton. I must have been very polite dogging, though, mustn't it? That must have been complicated. Dogging in Victorian Surbiton. Madame, my client, Mr. Cottesloe of Walpole Road, Surbiton, purveyor of fine candles, requests an evening of mutual masturbation with your consent. So it's got a more earthy history than you might make out. And so at this point, now, Robin, is Robin about? Robin, because you were sort of saying that Kingston's changed over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one of the big things that we discovered a few years ago was the fact that it was water from seething wells, Surbiton, that was used by Dr. John Snow to prove that cholera was waterborne, and that the engineer James Simpson, who built the filter beds there, created the model of filter beds still used all around the world. So we've actually got the centre, the start of epidemiology, public health, and as you know, Kingston celebrates it massively.
Yeah,
Such
I know.
a triumphant...
No, exactly. I mean, as soon as you arrive here, it's just epidemiology.
Yeah.
And
I know, you must be sick of it.
But also using the river, you think, has only been sort of happened as an attraction, has only happened recently?
Well, it's certainly for a long, long while we pretended the river wasn't there, and I think in the ideal world, the relief road, we'd have tarmacked it so people could have drawn that. But actually, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, actually, we've started to look to it, and it's become a great magnet for activity, for fun. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to go.
Well, it is a beautiful river. I mean, I can understand why it was only sort of 20 years ago that people discovered it.
Yeah.
It's a very hidden river. And it's just a shame there's not a clue in the name Kingston upon Thames that there might be a river anywhere near.
I know, it's a mystery.
Thanks very much, Robin. Thank you. Now, I've been on the boat. We've all been on the boat trips, haven't we? Yeah. Oh, it is beautiful. The ride up to Hampton Court was really, really beautiful. At first I thought, there's going to be, because I always look forward on these things, I thought, there's going to be one of them commentaries. I love the commentaries where the people there have done the same thing 1,000 times and they're bored silly and there's just these jokes they're fed up of saying. And I thought it was going to be like, Hampton Court was home to Henry VIII, who it is said invented fractions. He certainly has my sympathy. He had 6 wives, poor fellow. I've only got 1, that's enough for me. At least he was allowed to behead them. These days, the politically correct brigade would come down on you like a ton of bricks. Speaking of bricks, Hampton Court was built using more than 40 bricks, each one weighing more than Wiltshire. But instead of that, nothing. I went up to the end. I said, I was disappointed there wasn't a commentary. He said, what's the point? There's a path that side, ours is that side. There you go. Except one of those houses is Hampton Court. Yeah, but I suppose round here you're used to a branch of Quick Fit looking like that, so... Then there's this paddle steamer, the Southern Belle. I love the paddle steamer. And it's great. You think you're in Louisiana. I wanted someone to come up and go, now listen here, when I first sailed up the river back in the day, that was so long ago, the escalator in Bentals didn't even have one truss. I had to get myself a rope and climb up the wall to the 3rd floor when I wanted to get my brassiere fitted. Incidentally, is it in the contract when you buy a house by the river that every time a boat goes by you have to wave? Must be, but they're trying to smile. Sick of waving! I bet there's some of those houses. Oh no, we have a woman comes in and does our waving thing. Now, this brings us to one of my favourite parts of the borough, New Malden. We've got a lovely part. I mean, to start with, some people in New Malden have fought the most magnificent battle to stop the whole area being ruined by putting in a cycling lane. Now, the local community had to explain its objections and they put forward a thoroughly reasonable case, and I promise I'm not making this up. The proposed cycle path between Wrens Park and New Malden could lead to terrorist attacks. Also to undiscovered unexploded bombs and a potential to poison the London water supply. Now, it's possible that the residents have mixed up a cycle lane with a nuclear power plant. When this was reported in the local paper, one response in the comments section said, the terrorist threat is real. In 2009, MI6 discovered a plot to make badgers carry bombs. Recently, rumours have reached MI6 that ISIS are training badgers to ride bikes through Kingston to avoid the camp. And I thought, now, I like this man, he knows how to be sarcastic, and then I thought, oh no, if you met him, he'd go, no, it's true. But there is something about New Malden even more fascinating than that, because New Malden is the area with the biggest population of Koreans anywhere in the world outside Korea. No one even quite knows for certain why this is, as far as I can work out. For some reason, 15,000 Koreans, maybe more, have decided the time has come to leave our country and friends for the opportunities offered by a suburb of Kingston upon Thames where people think cycle lanes blow up. Now, I first discovered this New Malden Korean connection when the World Cup was in South Korea in 2002. And I came here to watch South Korea's matches at the Fountain Pub as it was packed. It was brilliant. It was packed with Koreans just banging gongs, which you don't often get that at football. Clang, ding, ding, clang, ding, and gang, ding, like a really angry Buddhist Iron Maiden. And most of the crowd was women with their toddlers, which is a marvellous football crowd, not one you get used to. It's like a sort of giant Korean football World Cup 1 o'clock club. And I wondered whether the mums all sit in circles teaching the kids songs such as "The referee on the bus is a wanker" all day long. There are several theories about why Koreans moved here. There's a theory that the ambassador lived here, so Korean people followed him. In the 1950s, there was a factory here, it was said that lots of Koreans worked in, but none of them really stand up. There is a theory that one Korean came here in 1958 and 5 years later was going, how do I get out of the one way? Then his family came to rescue him and they got stuck. And now there are 15,000 of them trying to find the right turn onto the A3. But it means the high street in New Malden is amazing. One of the most popular foods there. Do we know this? Kimchi. You familiar with kimchi? Now, this is brilliant about New Malden. See, even though you don't have to be Korean, you will all be familiar with kimchi. I looked up kimchi. A New Malden Korean recipe for it starts... My mouth always waters at the slightest whiff of this pungent fermented cabbage. I wonder if they need to sell it better. And something else that can be seen peculiar if you come to New Malden is the Korean habit of giving you gifts. You can leave a restaurant and you just get given a present. Now, this throws English people of my generation. I mean, in an English cafe, if you went in there and they went, there you go, white bacon, egg, beans, chips, sausage, mushrooms, mug of tea, that'll be £5.90, love, and then gave you a lampshade, you'd go... I'm not going in there again, they're a front for drugs. I got a message on Twitter from a Korean says, the Koreans in New Malden love giving stuff away. I once got given a pack of crackers when I bought a skirt. It must be exhausting. Every time you wander outdoors, you're going to have to go with a shopping trolley. Oh, no, I went in the post office, I got given a bath mat. I popped in the shop for a packet of biscuits, was given a chest of drawers. Carry piles of stuff around all day to give to other people as well. Oh, no, someone's asked me the time. I better give him his shoes. And one essential element as well to the Korean community is Noraebang, which is Korean karaoke. It's brilliant. It isn't just the young Koreans that go to Noraebang. Every generation goes to Noraebang. So the businessmen and the CEOs and that, they just think it's normal to go to Noraebang at lunchtime and sing and dance in a small room to the Korean pop called K-pop. Noraebang seems to have a similar role to Koreans as a cup of tea does traditionally to the English. And I think the rest of the English should learn from this, I reckon. We'd come in from the shops then and go, oh, I'm worn out. Oh, I've been rushed off my feet, I really have. I'll put the Noraebang on. Oh, that's better. I can face looking after the washing. But there's been a twist to the Korean population in New Malden because recently a few hundred North Koreans have come here as well, having escaped the dreadful regime in North Korea. Now, this must be a huge culture shock to come here from a country that has to name everything after Kim Jong-un, the leader, to an area where no one would dream of giving a whole borough a name that meant it belonged to a head of state. One of the most unsettling things about coming from North Korea to Kingston must be that you're used to the most ridiculous laws, whereas here we only have sensible rules, such as swan upping. This is the law that the country's swans are owned by the monarch, but there are 5 days when the worshipful company of dyers and vintners can own swans on one part of the Thames as long as they mark each swan to show it's one of theirs. According to Buckingham Palace's website, a flotilla of rowing skiffs manned by swan uppers in scarlet rowing shirts, headed by the Queen's swan marker, wearing a hat with a white swan feather, row crying, "All up!" when they see a swan. The North Koreans must think we've escaped to the one place in the world where the laws are even more mental than where we came. If you go down the river at night, listen carefully. If you're lucky, you'll hear the sound of someone going, "That's Queen Victoria's swan, that is." Yeah, bloody is, she told me herself. It's a swan! And this is the home of one of the most famous dogs ever. The dog who lived here and became the picture for his master's voice. Nipper, the dog. Nipper was photographed by his owner in the 1890s while listening to an early phonograph. And his image became so well known that an alley has been named after him, Nipper Alley. And the local news reported, Jennifer Butterworth, chairman of the Kingston Society, was dismayed by this news. She said, "It's really daft. You know what dogs do in alleys. Things are just getting worse and worse and worse." Absolutely. Things are just getting worse and worse. It starts with an alley named after a dog. Before you know it, there'll be a branch of Sports Direct that wasn't designed by Christopher Wren. And the nightclub. Do you know about the nightclub, Kingston? Essence nightclub. This is such a Kingston nightclub, right next to the ruins of the ancient bridge, and the walls of the nightclub are covered in Latin quotes. Honestly, I thought this must be a posh nightclub. And then I found this article in a national newspaper. Essence nightclub shut down after a 30-man brawl, in which 210 of the witnesses were revealed to have criminal conviction. That's magnificent. In the Royal Borough, revellers used scaffolding poles as weapons. And I particularly enjoyed the statement from one of the bouncers that went, Ipsum donitus primora adidas trainus. Scaffoldia polus, he was looking for a slap. But it's a royal borough. It's only good and proper that you have the odd feudal battle. It's the Saxon in you. Because Kingston is more earthy and much wilder than you'd guess from the Tudor super drugs and the swans. Mo Farah jumped naked off the bridge here once. There's banquet records. You've got a large immigrant population, and not just Jamaicans and Italians. Everyone's got them. You've got Koreans, including North Koreans, and drunk historians, and you boast about bra fittings. And I seem to remember one episode of Reggie Perrin where he said, sorry, I'm late, 11 minutes delayed, doggers on the line in Surbiton. And the Queen must officially approve of all of this, otherwise she'd take her name away, she would. So I will leave you, Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames, with an extract from 3 Men on a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, a famous book about his travels along the River Thames, starting in Kingston. And I'll leave you with this. Thank you very much for being delightful and royal. We ventured upstream, all Kingston glimmering in its autumnal glory, past an elegant Iron Age fort, proud on the starboard side. We called to a fisherman, asking what he knew of this structure. It's a branch of Primark, he said. To our right, we espied 4 blacksmiths lying in a heap. Disembarking that we may be of assistance, they called out, No, 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 sire, we are a work of art. We set off once more on our journey, but the boat caught fire. A passing stranger rescued us, saying, Here, look who I've rescued. It's only Queen Victoria, isn't it?
Mark